So each time when I start Dharma class, I always bit worry because I really don't know how much I can teach you the Dharma very clearly, make sure there's no any mistake, no errors. My second concern is also I really don't know how much you can get, you can have the benefit through my classes. My third concern is very much concerned about your daily Dharma practices. I try my best to explain the meaning of the dharmas. Also, I try my best to explain very clearly, simply, as much as I can. The second concern, how much you can learn from me is not much depend on me. It is very much depend on you, how much you can repeat the study and how often you can reflect all the meanings of the Dharma. The third is 100% up to you, depend on you, how much, how long you can practice the Dharma, how much you can change yourself. Therefore, since we have been studying Dharma, it is very important to live according to Dharma, according to Buddha's teaching, according to Buddha's advices. For the 24 hours, when we woke up early morning, of course you need to think, so many other things, what you have to be done during the day. But the first thought, you should think, I'm very lucky, still I survive. I have another day to practice the Dharma. I have another day to live with the Dharma. Therefore, for the next 24 hours, my time, my energies, my activities, all I will use them to know the Dharma, to practice the Dharma. I won't waste my time, my energy, and my ability. We should think at the beginning of our day. The second, when you start your day, we try to live, we try to act, we try to speak, we try to help others according to Dharma. Even though you need to speak to someone who are very annoying person, who are very mean person for you, But from our side, from your side, must have a pure thoughts, pure motivation, should not have any kinds of anger and hatred. Then you can speak to the person with a sense of compassion. When you see someone is much better than you, then suddenly be jealous about the person. When you see somebody has more than you have, also be jealous about them. And that moment also you must think, this person, those persons are much better than me, which is you must appreciate, you must rejoice them. Also, when you see somebody have more things than you do, also you must have a sense of rejoice, sense of admiration. You should not have a jealousy. Then when we drink, when we take drink and food, yes, everybody who has a feeling, they have a desire to eat, desire to drink, desire to wear, desire to speak. But make sure when we eat, drink, wearing, everything we must have a limitation. That means if you eat just enough food to survive, enough just drink, enough to survive, fulfill your thirsty, fulfill your hungry, you wear, you dress up clothes, which is just enough to cover your body, not to wear very expensive clothes. When you speak to someone, make sure you are speaking the right. Your speak must be right, truthful, with the standard reasoning. And also you must control your speaking. This means all our action try to act according to Dharma. Many of us have a sugar problem, diabetes problem, hepatitis, so many types of sickness we have. Almost 80-90% the sickness which we have is caused by unhealthy food, unlimited food we consume. Therefore, we really need to control our desire with the food, drink, clothes, speaking, all kind of action. That means you study Dharma. At the same time, you try to live with the Dharma. Dharma you practice for 24 hours. Then sometime you have a very difficult situation. Everybody already have a lot of experience with a very difficult situation. If you tell the truth, you speak truthfully certain matter, it harms for many peoples. It harms for many families. It's harmful yourself. That time you should speak the truth, or you just make some excuse. So if you are a very wise person, if you really try to live with the Dharma, then in order to save many peoples, in order to save your family, in order to save yourself for the time being, you can make some excuse. When you make an excuse, when you make little lies, you must make an excuse with a sense of guilty. After you have done the action at the end or evening, you must do a lot of confession, or you have done little negative things during the day. That means I'm trying to explain you how to live with the Dharma for 24 hours, right? The second, last time we talked about Shamatha and Vipassana, calm abiding, and spiritual insight. The calm abiding, the word also translated from Tibetan language into English. In Tibetan language, we have two words for the calm abiding. Yi means calm. Yi, calm. The second word is ne. Ne means abide. Therefore, the word become, like calm, abiding, yine. Then spiritual insight also is translated from Tibetan word into English. And Tibetan word also we have a hak, mean specialist, very special or very unique. Thong mean sight or see. Therefore, you can see spiritual insight, like thong, right? So with these two words, when you think about shamatha, mean the mind which is totally calm and stillness. Really calm mean no any other distraction. The mind is totally calm, not just calm for a short time, then abide for a long time. Therefore, first we need to learn how to calm our mind and how to continuously abide. Right? So I won't repeat again and again. Make sure you must know the meaning of shamatha, meaning of calm abiding. Then spatial insight, vipassana or vipassana, mean your mind is not just very calm and abide. At the same time, a calm mind does analyze about the object. This means spatial insight and shamatha. So these two we must achieve. Calm abiding and shamatha, these are the foundation to achieve liberation or achieve Buddhahood. We must achieve, anybody can achieve. Whether you are Buddhist, non-Buddhist, free thinker, anybody can, achieve these two. Therefore, at the beginning, I try to explain you the definition, the meaning of calm abiding and spatial insight. Then last time we learned how to achieve calm abiding, right? Vipassana, how to achieve. Then in the meditation stage, explain the prerequisite or precondition, right? First, we must reduce all our, all the desire. Mean, when you wake up early morning, you have so many thoughts. So, I woke up, I take a shower, I breakfast, do this. You have so many thoughts, arise within a short time. So before you, meditate on something, you reduce all the thoughts, purify all the thoughts, segregates or this thought I don't need for 1 hour. For the 1 hour, my mind will have only one action, which is just focus on the chosen object. I no need to worry, all the what I need to do rest of the day. Therefore, for the 1 hour or 20 minutes, you need to shut down all the other thoughts. Mean you need to stop to thinking. You must stop all the thoughts except just only one thought, which is focus on the chosen object. But this, then also before you start, before you meditate on something, you must finish what you supposed to do. For example, you clean your throat, you clean your nose and mouth, you must done your toilet. That means that you just completely, free from this busyness thing. But then also, generally, if you are a very healthy person, you don't have any kind of, particular physical challenges. That means we try to eat just simple, healthy, and clean. Simple, healthy, and clean. Simple means you don't have to eat so many varieties of food. In the morning, you can have a rice porridge. Add some green vegetable or like mushroom. Just simple porridge. Or you can have a simple, like a bread with a honey or gems. And, tea, like green tea, or this thing good. That means simple food. People like to eat so many things, so many varieties, lot of. Therefore, you can see we human beings thought we are very intelligent. Actually, we are very stupid, kind of sentient beings. What we do, we eat a lot of food. Then we become very fat, become fatty. Then second, we need to run, we need to do like jogging, we need to do exercise, we need to go for gym to reduce your weight, reduce the fat in your body, reduce your diabetes. So in order to do this thing, why we at the beginning eat simple food, not too much, simple. Then healthy mean the simple food must have enough kind of energy to give you enough strength, enough energy to speak, walk, talk. People who live in Singapore, you don't have a really heavy physical walks. You don't need very strong physical body to carry like 70 or 80 kilos. You don't have to walk in the outside, dig the land and grass. Mostly you do a lot of light, simple, light physical walks. Therefore, you don't need very strong, muscular body. That means the food must have enough kind of flavor or enough energy to just survive. Enough energy to, complete your daily work. Then clean is very important. According to Chinese Buddhist tradition, all the monks and nuns, also many lay people, they don't eat meat, egg, garlic, onion. Those are considered as unclean food. If you don't have physical problem, then you must avoid, like meat, garlic, onion, or other food which is cause you to feel sleepy, heaviness. If you have a certain physical like challenges, or if you need to eat meat, garlic, onion, then you must take them as a medicine, just for my survive, just to cure my sickness and disease. Therefore, what Nagarjuna said, all the foods like a medicine should not eat with a attachment. No, should not eat a food for fatty, muscular, or should not eat the food for very flexible body. Eat the food for just survive. Right? This means simple, healthy, clean. Therefore, in the book mentioned, you must avoid the meat like a fish meat, whatever. Because when you eat garlic, onion, meat, it makes you very sleepy, makes your body feel very heavy. If you feel this, you cannot do meditation. Right? Then the posture, you can sit on the, most important, you sit very comfortably. Sit on the cushion, sit on the chair, sit on the bed, wherever you sit, doesn't matter, that place. Most important, you sit comfortably. Otherwise, after a few minutes, you need to move here and there. You need to change your position because you feel very uncomfortable. Therefore, comfortable is very important. Comfortably, physically comfortable, mentally comfortable, right? Then the posture, you can sit as a full posture, full lotus posture, and half lotus posture. Most of us, I think, more comfortable with the half lotus posture, right? If you sit on the lotus posture, you can sit, I think, few hours. You cannot feel the tiredness. If you sit on the chair, after 20 minutes, suddenly you feel, a bit uncomfortable. You have to move your leg here and there, here and there. You need to move your body. Therefore, sitting on the cushion with a lotus posture is help you to sit for a long time. Is the lower body. Then, the upper body, from your hip all the way to your head, you must know, keep still. Don't bend inward, don't bend, like forward and backward. Look like arrow, very still. There's a lot of reasonings. If you bend your body inward, the blood circulation cannot circle smoothly. Same way you backward too much, again the blood circulation cannot circle, smoothly. Therefore, suddenly you feel, like a shoulder ache, back ache, headache, so and so. Therefore, keep still. All the, the wind energy, the blood, let circulate very smoothly. You can see, water is going through the pipe. If you bend, you can see the water is stopped. Cannot, flow very smoothly. Therefore, keep still. Still. Then your eyes, eyes should not, really open too much, should not too close. Just enough able to see around, around you like this. But if you bend inward too much, then easy to have a sleepy, feel sleepy. Up too much, very easy to have a distraction. Therefore, there's a reason why you need to look down, not too much open, too much close. Just simply like this. This. And the hand, doesn't matter you do the meditation posture, remind, keep in an ordinary way, not that important. If you meditate in the mountain, like Himalaya, then you must do this. And this, mudra, you must touch just below your belly button. Because it produces heat. Your hand touch your belly button, is produce heat. Therefore, it touch like this. Then in Singapore or other parts of country, if the weather is always hot, then your shoulder or the arms, you should not really touch to your rib. Must keep open. The air is go in and out. If you touch leg, then again produce a lot of heat, and you feel sweat very quickly. Therefore, keep open. The chest is open like this. You can see there's an empty, right? The air is going in and out. The tongue, you touch upper plate or not. If you really do long meditation, then you must touch your lip, your tongue on the upper plate, like that. That means you have to stop. The saliva come out. Right? This is the how we do the meditation posture. There's a 8 posture. This is very easy way, very easy to do. Now I say sit comfortably, physically, mentally. Physically, you must feel very relaxed. You should not feel so tense. Or mentally relaxed means you stop all the thoughts, all the busy mind. Have only one thought to focus on the chosen object. In the past, we train our mind how to visualize Buddha, and the mind just focus on the Buddha. I say Buddha, that's not an image. I mean, you must feel the visualized Buddha in your mind is a real Buddha. You just visualize Buddha, the mind is just focus on the Buddha. Right? It's also easy to focus chosen object. Now today we will go more precisely about the object of meditation. Meditation, right? And in the Lamrim is mentioned 4 object of meditation. One is said, universal object of meditation, or the pervasive object of meditation. Then object of meditation to purify your behavior. Number 2. Number 3, object of meditation to purify your afflictions. First, behavior. Second is afflictions. Third is meditation object of expertise. Expertise. Right? So the universal object of or pervasive object is a 2. Discursiveness and not discursiveness of the object of meditation. Mean again, when we visualize Buddha in our mind, the mind is totally stillness, mean non-discursiveness, because none of the other thoughts can disturb the image. Second, the image is there in our mind, but the other thoughts can disturb the image. They became and discursiveness object. Number one. Number two, object of meditation to purify our behavior. There also one person can behave in different ways. We can have a many different behavior within 24 hours. Or two people can have different behaviors. One person is almost most time is very angry. Angry with others, angry with yourself, angry with the weather, angry with your food and clothes. Generally, you can say someone is, you can say naturally look very angry, very short temper. That means this person has a angry and short tempered behavior. That means behavior. Or somebody naturally, you can see, since childhood, that person naturally have a very strong attachment. With a little thing, the man is so attached. Therefore, you can see, you can compare like your, parents or your grandparents or great parents. You compare your grandparents used to keep so many things, right? Then your parents also used to keep so many things. They don't want to throw it away. There's two reasons. Reason number one, since their childhood, they collect this thing with a lot of difficulties. In order to earn simple shoes, simple like clothes, simple spoon and plates, they need to pay. And that time, it's not easy to earn the money. Therefore, they thought, oh, this object is very valuable. Therefore, they don't want to throw away. Second, they attach their money attached to the object. Right? Now you, compared with you and your parents, your grandparents, I think you keep so many things, but I don't think you keep all the old things. You throw away most of the old things, you buy so many new things. Still, we have an attachment. Therefore, you can see someone born with a strong attachment. The person have a attachment behavior, stingy behaviors. Therefore, different people has a different, behavior based on the different negative thoughts. This is different people. For individually, when we think ourselves, morning, maybe you are very angry. Somehow, most of the morning, you feel very angry. You became very short-tempered. You are a very short-tempered person for the morning. Afternoon, maybe you are not angry person. You are not that short-tempered, but your mind so strong attached to some things. Therefore, we need to purify or we need to change these behaviors. We study Dharma, we never try to change our behaviors, then there's no point to study Dharma. There's no point to attending the Dharma class. So we have to change our behavior. At the same time, we have to change our lifestyle. Right? Therefore, object of meditation to purify, to change our behaviors. That means there's 5 negative thoughts: attachment, anger, ignorance, pride, jealousy, so and so, right? There's mainly 5 negative thoughts: ignorance, attachment, anger, pride, and let me see what are the 5? I cannot remember the 5. I'll check in Amrin. Okay, that preferred behavior, which is the attachment, hatred, delusion, pride, discursiveness are the 5. Ignorance, delusion is same. Then attachment, hatred, then pride, discursiveness, many thoughts coming, 5. So in order to change the attachment behavior or desire behavior, we need to meditate on ugliness or essenceless. In order to change the angry behavior, the hated behavior, so we need to practice, or we need to practice love and compassion. In order to change the ignorance, the delusion behavior, we need to meditate on dependent arising. In order to change the pride behavior, we need to meditate on differentiation of constituent. So in order to change the behavior of discursiveness, so we need to meditate on inhales and exhales, right? There's 5 objects of meditation to purify our behaviors. Now we go step by step. Let's say everybody sit comfortably. Doesn't matter you sit on the chair, bed, just sit comfortably. Then you must think, since now, next maybe, like 10 minutes, I will stop all other activities. I will stop all other thoughts except the meditative thought, the meditation thoughts. Right? Okay, now we just imagine you have a very strong attachment, very strong desire. Due to the strong attachment, due to the extensive desire, makes you very unhappy, right? We have a strong attachment. The attachment, not let you sleep, not let you digest your food, not let you focus on something. Always arouse the attachment. Let's imagine you have a very strong attachment behavior. Or you can, visualize the person, the object, which is your mind is so strongly attached it. Now, how we control, how we can minimize the attachment, right? They say ugliness, essenceless. As a human being, averagely, everybody has an attachment towards, a human being or two human beings, maybe 3, 4, 5 human beings. But you need to visualize the person whom you really strongly attach with it. Visualize the person. Generate the attachment to the person. Or recognize the attachment towards the person, right? Attachment. When the attachment arises towards the person, how do we feel? How do we feel? We feel very destruction, a lot of destruction. Therefore, we need to reduce the attachment towards the particular person. Therefore, ugliness. There are 37 types of ugliness you can observe towards the person. When you attach to the person, maybe you have two reasons, two different reasons. When you say, oh, I really like the person because the person is so attractive. Or you can say, oh, I really like the person. The person is my relatives or my friends, or the person has a, really good heart. But maybe there are two different reasons. Mostly, we think the person is very attractive, but now you visualize the person, think about the 37 types of ugliness for the body, right? When the person opens the mouth, first you can see the teeth. When you look closely the teeth, you can see the teeth has a lot of strength, right? Particularly many people who eat a lot of the soy sauce food, use a lot of soy sauce, you can see the teeth is very yellowish. Or between, you can see all the, the ugly food or things stuck in the between the teeth. Then, just imagine the tongue come out. Most people have the tongue has a lot of again strength, all the white on the tongue. And you closely taste the smell in the mouth. We just do. There's no such as, nice like kind of smell. Very disgusting, disgusting smell. Look at in the nose, right? This day we do the swab test. When you put the pipe, you take out, you can see a lot of nasty thing attached to the things. Then open the skin of the head. Just open the skin of the head. You can see blood, bone, flesh, smelly. And open the bones of the head. You can see brain, all the, the movement of the brain. There's nothing you can attach it. Then open the, like a chest skin. You can see the rib, blood. Open the stomach. You can see the, all the intestine and the heart and lungs. There's nothing we can really attach. Very simply, when we wear, clothes or wear some kind of jewelry or watch and put little light or heavy makeup, like it doesn't matter man and woman, we can see, oh, the person looks very nice. And the person totally open the, take out the clothes. It's very ugly. So therefore, everybody meditate on ugliness of the person to reduce the attachment. Okay, so since today, I hope you will know how to reduce your attachment and desire to meditate on ugliness, mainly towards like a human beings. Then I said I add always essenceless, kind of let's say heartless. Let's say you someone very much like flower. It's okay you like a flower, but due to liking, it's give you a lot of strong kind of attachment to the flower. Now the flower is, oh, the flower is so beautiful, it's so nice, so gorgeous, right? You say like that. Now we need to analyze which part is really beautiful, most beautiful. The root, the stem, the leaf, the patterns, which one? When you analyze piece by piece, part by parts, you cannot see there's something is like an essence, which you say, wow, the flower is so beautiful. Also car. Someone have a very strong attachment, strong desire to buy expensive car. Expensive car, right? I don't know, so which car is very expensive. I heard some car is very expensive. And also, we say, oh, this car is so beautiful, so nice, so comfortable. Again, you analyze the cars, the house, the place, which is you so strong attached. Finally, you cannot see there's an essence of the car, which is you really attach. Essence of the flower, essence of the footwork. For example, you say, oh, the food is so delicious. I very much like the food. Again, you need to analyze. Through this analysis, then you can definitely reduce your attachment, attachment and desire. Then pride. Everybody has a, like pride. Even though many like a practitioner has a pride. Therefore, I am very high practitioner. I know how to practice. I know how to teach, meditation, how to teach Dharma. I teach many Dharma. I have many students. I have many disciples. They have again attachment. Or some of you say, oh, my families are very good. My brother is very rich. My younger sister is very famous. He or she has this car, this car. You have a very strong pride. Pride. How to reduce this pride? If you are a very proudful person, you never be good friend with anybody. Because you always talking about your brother or my brother, my brother, my brother all the time. My sister, my sister, my son, my son, my daughter, my father, or my job, my cars, my mobile, my watch. You always talk yourself, talk about your family, because you have a very strong pride. You feel very proud about the person. Is also one of the kind of negative thoughts bring you a lot of unhappiness, make other people very unhappy, reduce the pride, meditate on competition, right? Meditate on differentiation of constituent, differentiation constituent. Mean, let's say some of your one of your daughter is, very famous, like a actress. Imagine that you feel so proud. You have a pride, strong pride about your daughter because she is a very famous actress. Then differentiation means, or comparison, you must compare your daughter and other actors with the other country like US and Europe and China or Thailand. If you compare with your daughter with that actress, then you think you need to think again. You need to reconsider. Oh, is my daughter is most beautiful actress or not? Then you notice yes, not. Let's say your daughter is most of the beautiful actress on the planets. Then you need to compare your daughter with the celestial being. Compare with them, all human being is very ugly. This means, differentiation and constitute, or differentiate or comparison. Then same way, you have a very strong pride about your education, your position, your name, your family. Always need to compare in order to reduce the, like pride. If you have a, this means if you have a, you are a pride behavior person, then average people has a ignorance behavior, delusion behaviors. Mean we don't know the reality. We don't know the actual reality of all the phenomena. We forget others. First, we really don't know ourselves, who I am, how I exist, how I really establish. Am I my body? Am I my mind? Am I my body and mind? We confuse ourselves about ourselves. We cannot really recognize ourselves. We have a delusion. So in order to overcome the delusion, we need to meditate on dependent arising, dependently existent, dependently establishing, dependently. So we must meditate on dependent origination, dependently arising, dependently establishing. Then the delusion going to reduce. And one day we will realize the truth, the reality of phenomena, delusion. Those are how to purify our behaviors, attachment behaviors, angry behaviors, delusion behaviors, the pride behaviors. The last one, discursiveness. Discursiveness means having a lot of thoughts, so many thoughts. Right? For them, we need to meditate on the breath. Just you count the inhales, exhales, inhales, exhale. You just count 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 1,000 times. That means your mind is just, focus on your breath going in and out, in and out. It's count. Other way, you don't need to count. You just watch your breath. You need to feel the sense of your breath going in and out. Right? It's reduced to have all the reduced to have so many different kinds of thoughts. Right? So this is what are the object of meditation to change your our behaviors. Clear? The next one, how to purify the afflictions. Mean, due to attachment, we have an attachment behavior. Due to anger, so we have a angry behaviors. Due to pride, we have a prideful behaviors. Now, so when you control your anger, it change your behaviors. Next, we need to know how we really need to, how to eliminate, how to fully control, right? That means there's two practices. First, control for short time, temporarily. Look like you don't have attachment, anger, ignorance. You can fully control for many years. There's one practice. This is the temporal, practice to controlling the negative thoughts. The next one, how to eliminate from the root. How to eliminate the anger from the root. Angry, like anger, attachment, desire, ignorance. How we can, bring out the root. How we can get rid of from the root. Then meditate on the Four Noble Truths and the 16 characteristics of the Four Noble Truths. Then through this meditation, we can get rid all the negative thoughts from the root. At the beginning, can reduce, can control, and finally can get rid of all the thoughts from the root. So today we discuss the object of meditation, the pervasive object of meditation or universal object of meditation. Then meditation object of purify behaviors, object of meditation purify the afflictive emotions. Right? Then next, let's say somehow everybody have been trying to do meditation. Then I explained the last class, last Sunday. When we meditate, few things are very important, very important. First, you need to choose the particular object, or you can meditate on your breath. If you cannot, then maybe as a beginner, you just visualize just flower, right? Yellow flower, blue color. What you just choose a particular flower. The color, the size, the shape always same. For example, today you focus on the flower which is only like this size. Tomorrow you meditate on the flower which is bigger than the today. So today you meditate on the yellow flower, tomorrow you meditate on the green color, then we never going to achieve like a karma body, like shamatha. Therefore, we must choose only one object, or Buddha, or your breath, or ugliness, dependent arising, whatever. You choose only one object until you accomplish the karma body. Right? Let's say now everybody meditate on your breath. That time, make sure your mind, your attention fully focus on your breath. When the mind fully focus, focus on the breath. Then two things very important. Remember, when you focus on your breath, make sure the mind is not really disturbed by attachment, anger, whatever. Make sure no disturb. There's no distraction. Right? And yes, there's no distraction. You can fully focus, fully absorb your breath, but make sure the mind is not become laxity. Excitement means the mind has gone wandering something else. Laxity means at the beginning you can focus on your breath very clearly. Slowly you cannot see very clearly, become more dim and dim. Finally, look like you're totally sleepy. Mean the laxity arise or excitement arise. If these two obstacles arise, then you cannot really do meditation. You need to observe, make sure the excitement is not going to arise, already arise. Make sure that the laxity is already going to arise. If these two, one of arise, that means again you need to relax, do light exercise, like move your body left and right, be fresh. Then again you meditate on your own breath. Continuously absorb. Oh, suddenly your mind wondering about your lunch, wondering about your friends, wondering about your receiving text or email. Mean your mind disturbed. Mean excitement. Right? Yes, there's no excitement, but my mind is look like very like a darkness. I cannot see things very clearly. Mean the laxity or dullness arise. Or your mind is polluted by dullness or laxity. Then again, you should not continuously force to do meditation. Again, you stop your meditation, drink some water, or be relaxed, do like light exercise. Again, like concentrate on your breath. Right? Then second is alertness. So the general mind focus on the chosen object. Then alertness must aware the mind is not really focusing. The mind is wondering something else. Then the mind bring back. At the beginning, you do short time and relax, right? Then again, do meditation and relax. Okay, so today we stop here, then we can have a more discussion. Okay, why not we can have a discussion, Q&A. If you have any question, please feel free, ask a question.
Good morning, Geshe-la. This is a following up question from yesterday, the students. So the students is asking again about the Hinayana practitioner. Can a modern day Hinayana practitioner not practicing great compassion, great loving kindness, and bodhicitta, however, he's still, that Hinayana practitioner still giving teaching on great compassion, great loving kindness, and bodhicitta. Is that possible?
Okay, generally speaking, it is very much possible. It's okay. You can practice the Hinayana path. Still, you can teach great compassion, love, and bodhicitta others. But if you follow the Hinayan practice, you must remember what is your achievement. Your achievement is liberation. Liberation. That means you really want to achieve liberation within this lifetime. If you can, you are really trying to achieve liberation in this lifetime. Mean the Hinayan practitioner must be always busy to achieve liberation. They don't have a really free time to give a teaching of bodhicitta, great compassion. No, for example, if your head as a fire, burning fire on your head, you don't have a time to sing song and dance here there. You must snap. The fire is very urgent. The Hinayan practitioner fully cultivate renunciation, also fully focusing on achieving liberation. The pure Hinayan practitioner, they really don't care love and compassion. They know the compassion, the great love, bodhicitta, they're so wonderful attitudes. Of me, I'm not that type of person to listen and give teaching. I'm very urgent, and therefore just follow the Hinayana tradition and be pure Hinayan practitioner is different. You just follow Hinayan tradition, you can teach Mahayan practices to others is definitely okay. If you are purely be the Hinayan practitioner, then there's no point to teaching this thing, because you are seeking liberation in this lifetime. You are searching the urgency, which is liberation. Then you can achieve liberation, then maybe I can teach Mahayan teaching for others. Therefore, we should not mix up the genuine Hinayan practitioner and follow the Hinayan tradition. At the same time, also, we should not mix up, be genuine, the Mahayan practitioner, and follow the Mahayan tradition. We all, most of us, follow Mahayan tradition. We are not yet, the genuine Mahayan practitioner. Yes.
Thank you, Geshe-la. There's a further questions from this person again. The following up questions is, understand that in terms of Mahayana and Hinayana, there are two types. One is the tenets or pertaining to the view of Mahayana. The other one will be pertaining to the method or the practice of Mahayana and Hinayana. So if someone is holding a Mahayana view and practice the Hinayana, sorry, I misread her question. So she says, someone is holding a Hinayana tenets view, but practice Mahayana practices. At the same time, is this person qualified to teach other Mahayana view? Am I clear, or do I need to repeat, Geshe-la? Sorry about the delay.
Okay. It's clear. The person asks the question. Anyway, again, thank you so much for this question. Let's say someone be Mahayan practitioner, but the view is follow the Hinaya tenets, right? Is the person can teach the Mahayan view or not? This is the question. It is a is very much possible. For example, Lama Atisha, Master Atisha, and his teacher Serlingpa, both seriously follow Mahayana path, great compassion, bodhicitta, so and so. They fully follow the Mahayana practices like bodhicitta, great compassion, renunciation, so and so. But Adisha follow the Mahayana tenets view, which is all phenomena empty of inherent existence. But his teacher, Lama Selingpa, he follow the Hinayana tenets view. But Lama Adisha teacher, Lama Selingpa, definitely, definitely he taught all the Mahayana path, like bodhicitta, great compassion, six perfection. The wisdom part, maybe he taught the wisdom based on the Hinayana tenets view, right? Therefore, yes, this kind of Mahayana practitioner who follow the Hinayana tenets view, he or she cannot teach the Mahayana tenets view, because he or she haven't, themselves, they don't know the meaning of emptiness. Therefore, they can teach the method parts, not the wisdom parts. Wisdom has a different level. For example, wisdom which realizes the Four Noble Truths, 16 characteristics can teach. Then the most profound view, wisdom which realizes emptiness, that wisdom he or she cannot really teach. That means wisdom has a different level, the basic, profound, very profound. The very profound, like emptiness, suchness, they cannot. He or she cannot.
Sorry, Geshe-la, further questions. So she's asking, in this case, we as a student, how can we, is there a way that we can differentiate and determine the persons that we listen Dharma from is belong to which category? Is there any guideline that Geshe-la can share so that when we listen to Dharma, we are not mix up everything? Thank you, Geshe-la.
It is, I really cannot tell how you can, follow the master. Is 100% your duty or your responsibility. So when you attend the teaching, I said many times in the past, before we attend the teaching from anybody, even though from His Holiness Dalai Lama, from other famous, very qualified master like a Buddha, before we attend the teaching, we must know what kind of teaching the master is going to give you. Master is going to give. Then you notice, oh, this master tomorrow going to teach about bodhicitta. If you are very interested to practice bodhicitta, you must attend. Another one, you knew tomorrow the master is going to explain the Heart Sutra mainly about emptiness. You are not interested. You think I'm not going to understand about emptiness. Then there's no point to attend, the Heart Sutra teaching. Therefore, we are like a patient. We are a sick person. I have a headache. I must go to see the doctor who can give me headache medicine. I have a headache medicine. If I go to see doctor who giving the stomach ache medicine, it doesn't help, right? Therefore, you must know what kind of teaching he or she going to give. So remember what Pavanga Rinpoche said in the Lamrim. You must have a few containers. One container for rice, one container from barley, one container from wheat, or one container from sugar. You must have a many containers. That means in your daily practice, you practice bodhicitta, you practice great compassion, you practice renunciation, you practice 6 perfections. Then when you attend teaching, today he explained about bodhicitta. That means all the teaching you must put in the container about practicing bodhicitta. At the same time, also he or she teach about great compassion. He teach me how to practice great compassion, how to generate great compassion. This meaning I put in the other container. We must have, in our daily life, we must have all the practices. Then you attend, really you can benefit. You don't have any containers. You don't have a very particular practice. Still you attending many classes, mean you putting all together in one container. Then you don't know how to practice. For example, you have a barley, rice, wheat, sugar, all the things you put a container, then how you can cook good food, right? Therefore, it's a very important question. First, everybody must think why I need to practice Dharma. Then, which Dharma I need to practice, the Hinayan Dharma or Mahayana Dharma. Then Mahayana, yes, I want to practice bodhicitta, great compassion, not emptiness. Then the minimum you need to know the view based on the Chitta mantra, or based on the view from the consequences. No, the Chitta mantra and the autonomous school. You just forget for the time being the Pasangika. Chitta mantra, autonomous. If you just only follow the view, your view follow mainly, you have a view based on the first 2 Hinayan school. For the time being, it can be useful. And for the long time, it doesn't help you to reduce the actual negative thoughts. Okay, next question, please. Is there a question?
Yes, Geshe-la. Another question from a separate person, still a Chinese one. The question is, actually, I don't have the intelligence to understand the Dharma, but I still like to listen to the Dharma. Can I attend Dharma with the intention to plant seed only, because I have no capacity to understand and practice the Dharma, but I still very much like to listen? Can I listen Dharma with the intentions to plant seed? Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you so much for asking the question. The person who asked a question, I think you yourself really don't recognize yourself. You say, I don't have an intelligence to understand the Dharma. I think you are very intelligent. You have enough intelligence to understand Dharma. Because when you analyze, you realize, I don't understand Dharma. mean you understood something, right? Something. Second, you thought, oh, I don't really understand this, like, for example, meaning of emptiness, like great compassion. Mean also, you are very intelligent. You really notice. You don't understand bodhicitta. Still, you are very intelligent. You thought, I don't understand, but I will attend because I can have a lot of put a lot of potential, a lot of imprints in my mind. That means you don't know, you feel you don't know Dharma, mean you know the most important part. Many people mistaken. They thought, oh, I know everything. I know bodhicitta, I know great compassion. No, mean they don't know. You really notice you don't know anything, mean you notice the most important, I don't understand Dharma. When you realize you don't understand, you will make effort. Today you learn 1 word. Next week, 2. Within 1 year, you will learn so many things. Remember the great path and small path of the Arhat. In the Buddha lifetime, there were 2 brothers. One is called great path. The second, the younger name is the small path. Because when the first boy was born, when the parent asked the nanny, bring this boy to, to receive blessing from all the sanghas. Then the nanny brought the boy on the big path where all the sangha traveling coming for the village to get the lunch and returning to the temple or what you call Buddhist vihar. Then the boy got a lot of blessing. Then when he became monk, he was very intelligent. He learned so many things very fast. Second boy was born. Same thing, the parent asked the nanny, bring this boy to receive blessing from all the sanghas. That time the nanny was maybe so tired, he wasn't interested. He just brought the boy in the the small path. So that day the path is so small, none of the sangha, pass by the road. Therefore, small path. He also became a monk, became a sangha, but he was very dumb. He could not learn anything for many years. Then the elder brother feel very, very shameful for him. Then he asked his younger brother, you must leave the monastery. I don't think you're going to learn anything. You must leave the monastery. Then the younger brother, he left the monastery and far away, he was just crying there. Then the Buddha was coming back from the village. The Buddha asked, why you are crying? Right? Then he said, my brother asked me to leave the monastery because I cannot learn anything. Buddha said, don't worry. You don't need to learn anything. You don't need to study. Just come with me. Go back to monastery. Buddha said, you don't need to learn Dharma. No. Don't learn Dharma. Each time when all the monks go in the temple, you put all the shoes. Summertime, all the monks wear shoes. You put all the shoes in order. Clean the shoes. Put all the shoes in order. He did this job. Few months. Doesn't mean, look at now, Buddha is very compassionate. Yes, don't leave, come back. Very compassionate. Buddha never asked, you do purification practice. Just clean the shoes, put in order. Then Buddha taught him how to, walk well, how to learn, very simple way. Then after a few months, Buddha asked, okay, since today you don't need to clean the shoes. You clean the yard, the ground of the temple. You clean the ground of the temple. Therefore, in Chinese tradition, you can see, all the monks early morning, they have to clean the yard. They follow the tradition. He was just sweeping the ground every day. The Buddha said, okay, so when you sweep the ground or the floor, you must say, I clean the dust, I clean the dust, I clean the dust. Then the small part always, recite the words, I clean the dust, I clean the dust. He cleaned all the grounds every day. Look, he just learned two things: clean the shoes, put in order, clean the dust, clean the yard, the dust, right? Then one day he realized, he thought, why Buddha asked me to clean the shoes? Why Buddha asked me to clean the yard and asked me to chant the dust, repeat that, clean the dust? Then he realized cleaning shoes means purifying negative thoughts. Shoes has a very dirty smell. Or the clean dust is not the external dust, it's the inner dust. Attachment dust, anger dust, ignorance. Then he realized, oh, clean dust doesn't mean only clean the temple out external dust, clean the inner dust, right? Therefore, you should not think I'm not intelligent, I don't have an ability to understand Dharma. Definitely you have. Because you realize you don't know anything, you realize the most important part. You don't have a pride. Yeah, you should not think, first, I don't have I'm not intelligent, I don't understand anything. Second, yes, you must think, I will try to understand the Dharma, therefore I will attend class. At the same time, I cannot learn much, still I can leave a lot of imprints. I listen today and tomorrow. After a few years, the accumulation will be big for you, right? So yes, you should not think, you cannot learn. Second, you should not think I'm only listening and teaching to have an imprints. I will try my best. At the same time, I will collect the imprints. Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, to attend the Saturday class. So I told you the class is going to continuously until end of the December. Then the class for going to stop for the beginner. So we have maybe another 1.5 months. So we will have a few classes. So I will try to finish mainly the meditation part. Since I have done my responsibility, since it's up to you. You tell your mind, you spoil your mind. You achieve something in this life, you're totally not going to achieve anything in this life. Is up to you. If you want to be happy, this moment, want to be happy in the future, you want to be happy when you are 80, 90, 100 years old, make sure you study Dharma well. Then when you are 70 years old, 90 years old, 80 years old, you never feel loneliness. You never feel, so life is so boring. Otherwise, when you are retired, when you are 90 years, 80 years old, you feel so boring. None of your children is speaking to you. None of children cares you. You feel very lonely. You feel so boring. If you practice Dharma, if you learn Dharma, when you are 80, 90, you feel so happy. You feel so lucky. Still, you can practice Dharma continuously. Therefore, Dharma will be your best friend all the time. Your position or your properties, your relatives, your friends, whoever, never be your reliable friends for all the time. Your children can take care of you a few months, or they will go somewhere and be busy. Your friends come to see you for a few days or short time, they say, okay, bye-bye. Your position, no, going to be changed. Your name and fame going to be changed. Your property going to be declined. So Dharma knowledge, Dharma will be your best friend with you all the time. Therefore, please study Dharma and put effort. Try to practice Dharma. Try to live with the Dharma. Then one day you are alone in home. You feel very happy. You are very happy to stay alone. Nobody around you. But you can think the Dharma. Or you should not feel I'm lonely. You can visualize all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas around you. That means you have a more friend than anybody else, right? Therefore, study very well, then practice well, then you can have a happy life. And thank you so much. Attend the Saturday, Sunday class. I really don't know Saturday or Sunday. I don't really care the day and month. At the end, during our class, we have accumulated, great amounts of merits. All the merits we have accumulated this morning. First, we dedicate the merit to benefit all sentient beings, benefit for temporarily, benefit for long time. Second, we dedicate the merit for world peace. Last, we dedicate all the merit for becoming ourselves Buddha. Then we can benefit all sentient beings. Jamba Bhagya Jidara Gyamba Dong, Gundu Zangbo Deyang Dejen, Deda Gunye Jesu Da Lojen, Gewa Deda Tangje Rabu, Dusum Shekbe Gyawa Tangje, Yenwa Ganga Chodo Ngaba, Dage Gewe Zawa Ndi Gunya, Zangbo Jeje Rado Ngwa Ye. Thank you, and enjoy your Sunday holiday. Thank you.